Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever wondered what makes Quentin Tarantino's films feel so distinct, so undeniably Tarantino? It's more than just, the sharp dialogue and the stylistic violence. It's really a masterful blend of influences, cinematic DNA woven from countless threads.
Yeah, threads of history, literature, film.
Yeah,
And once you start seeing it, you really can't unsee it.
exactly.
And that's precisely what we're here to do today, right? Our mission on this deep dive is really to unearth those fascinating connections.
Yeah.
We're going to take a close look at the articles, research, insights you've shared about his, well, incredibly rich and often surprising creative world. Our goal is basically to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge, those things that reveal the unexpected facts, the deeper connections behind his unique genius.
Absolutely. And we're not just scratching the surface here. We're going to pull insights from, rigorous academic analyses of his films, things like the intense historical explorations of Django Unchained,
Right.
and the genre-bending artistry of Kill Bill. We'll delve into discussions on neo-noir, classic Western literature, even his personal reading lists, which are famously huge.
Voracious reader, definitely.
Totally. So from ancient Greek tragedies, samurai ethics, classic American Westerns, Shakespearean revenge plays,
Yeah.
we're going to try and uncover how all these seemingly disparate threads contribute to his singular voice, his groundbreaking storytelling.
And the idea is, by the end of this deep dive, you'll have a genuine shortcut to being truly well-informed on, let's call it, the foundational elements of Tarantino's creative process.
Right.
You won't just understand what he references, you'll start to grasp the deeper why it matters, giving you those really satisfying aha moments without just getting overwhelmed by information overload.
Perfect. So let's begin. Let's take our journey into this vibrant, often chaotic melting pot that is Quentin Tarantino's pop culture influence.
Let's do it.
So diving right into Tarantino's signature style, it's absolutely impossible to talk about him without first acknowledging his core identity, that persona he cultivated.
The film geek.
Exactly, the self-proclaimed and certainly cultivated film geek. And this isn't just a casual label, is it? It's a profound devotion.
No, it's deep. It's someone so passionately immersed in films. They have this enormous, almost encyclopedic knowledge
Erudition.
and this unbridled enthusiasm, especially for what some might dismiss as trash culture.
Right. He doesn't just watch movies. He, devours cinema, dissects its history, understands its nuances, and then he filters it all through his unique lens, reassembles it.
And it's that deep, almost obsessive devotion that fundamentally informs his approach. It's way more than simple referencing.
Yeah.
It's about internalizing these vast cinematic and cultural histories and then representing them in a way that feels both familiar and startlingly fresh.
It's like he's orchestrating this grand conversation between all these different film pieces from across time and genres.
Yeah, and we, the audience, are not just invited to listen, but actively compelled to participate in that conversation.
And a truly defining, and let's be honest, often controversial, part of that conversation is his approach to violence.
Oh, definitely.
In his films, violence isn't just a plot device. It's often presented as an aesthetic,
Wow.
almost like another color to work with on his canvas.
That famous quote.
Yeah, he's famously quoted saying, "When Fred Astaire dances, it doesn't mean anything. Violence is the same. It doesn't mean anything. It's a color," which is, well, pretty provocative.
It is. And it strongly suggests he's consciously separating the sign, the movie violence, from the signified, real violence.
Right.
And that artistic distance lets him wield violence for dramatic effect, for dark humor, sometimes just pure stylistic flourish, without necessarily making a traditional moral judgment about the acts themselves.
It's a tool.
Exactly. A tool in his artistic toolkit, not a sermon.
That separation is key, I think, because it allows his films to frequently reject those traditional moral frameworks audiences might expect.
Totally. In the worlds he creates, you get the sense that everyone is degraded, nobody is innocent, good and evil often blur as moral choices.
Characters operate on their own distinct codes, not necessarily adhering to some universal moral compass.
Think about the contrast between his original script for Natural Born Killers and Oliver Stone's version.
Oh, yeah. Stone injected lots of moral judgments, didn't he? Which Tarantino reportedly hated.
Hated! He just wanted Stone to leave it alone, apparently.
And that artistic dispute really highlights Tarantino's consistent preference for moral ambiguity. Characters navigate their narratives on their own terms, free from that external moralizing.
It allows for a more chaotic, unpredictable, and ultimately a more stylistically daring portrayal of human nature. It's a world where motives are murky. Clear-cut heroes and villains. Rare.
If they exist at all.
Which brings us to another one of his absolute hallmarks, the non-linear storytelling.
Ah, yes. The rearranged plots.
His plots are often jumbled up and thoughtfully rearranged, pieced together like this elaborate puzzle. And it's not just a gimmick, right? No, not at all. It actively compels the audience to focus on the plot continually. You're not just passively watching. You're actively engaging, piecing it together, connecting dots.
Investing intellectually in the story.
And Pulp Fiction is, the definitive example of this technique.
For sure.
It masterfully weaves together those three primary storylines that are deeply interrelated and interact on each other in various ways, but shown out of order.
And that structure was inspired, wasn't it, by older films?
Yeah, inspired by films like Jean-Pierre Melville's 1962 French noir Le Dulo. Tarantino loved that film's complexity.
Le Dulo, okay.
He even said about it, you don't have any idea of what's going on until the last 20 minutes. That challenge to the audience, that delayed gratification, that's something he clearly aimed for.
Makes you an active participant. Forces you to engage with the puzzle.
Exactly.
And he pushes it even further sometimes. Think about Kill Bill, Volumes 1 and 2.
Oh, yeah, the chapter breaks.
The whole narrative is punctuated by deliberate color and sequence shifts. Clear divisions like Chapter 1, 2, or Chapter 3, the origin of Oren.
And the black and white flashbacks.
Right. Not just stylistic. It signals a time change, a dive into memory. And the visual palette of that final duel in Volume 1, just iconic.
Oren's white kimono, Beatrix's yellow suit.
The black sword, red blood, white snow, these aren't random choices. They're deliberate narrative moves that also reflect the protagonist's psychological activity.
Like the black and white perhaps symbolizing her numb state or exhaustion?
Maybe. Or the shift to dark blue when she cuts the power of the House of Blue Leaves, like a visual cue for her calming down, her cool mind taking over, foreshadowing success.
It's all part of this intricate tapestry. Visual and narrative choices adding layers of meaning way beyond simple plot progression.
And speaking of layers, we absolutely have to talk about the dialogue.
Oh, the dialogue. Legendary.
It is. Conversational, yes, stylish. That's the phrase that always sticks. It feels real but heightened.
Characters convey so much complexity, personality, subtext through their speech.
Yeah, providing humor, tension, insight. Often in ways that seem tangential to the plot, but are actually essential for character, mood, understanding their world.
It's like listening to the most compelling, unfiltered conversations you've ever overheard somehow.
And this dialogue style, it's deeply influenced by those hard-boiled crime fiction writers, right?
Undeniably. Authors like Raymond Chandler, Mickey Spillane, and especially Elmore Leonard. Tarantino himself said Leonard opened his eyes to the dramatic possibilities of everyday speech, taking mundane conversations and making them crackle.
With subtext, rhythm, personality.
Leonard's character spoke realistically, but every line advanced something. Tarantino mastered that.
You see it perfectly in Pulp Fiction. That famous discussion between Jules and Vincent about the quarter pounder with cheese in Europe.
The Royale with cheese.
Of course. It's a prime example of that pop culture-infused rhythmic dialogue. They're not literally moving the plot forward right then.
But they absolutely are building character, establishing tone, drawing you into their bizarre, fascinating dynamic. It's making exposition entertaining.
Masterclass.
And that's precisely where he learned that crucial lesson. How to subvert genre stories.
Ah, right. From Leonard.
From Leonard, yeah. Tarantino understood that it's fine for the premise of your genre stories to be cliched, as long as where the characters take this premise is startlingly unique.
Embrace the familiar setup, then twist expectations.
Exactly. You see it all over Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Butch the boxer, supposed to throw the fight, but doesn't.
Leading to that whole crazy journey.
Vincent Vega, the hitman, taking Mia Wallace out, navigating that minefield.
Trying to stay professional.
And Jules Winfield, the hardened hitman who finds God after a miracle and shows mercy. Fundamentally changes his life.
Familiar archetypes taken in startlingly new directions. It's taking established tropes and twisting them.
Masterfully.
Which leads us directly to another defining element. Cinematic homages and that pervasive intertextuality.
Oh, it's everywhere.
His films are saturated with violence and revenge, yes, but they are packed, almost bursting with references to other cinema, pop culture.
So much more. And he's not shy about it. It's part of the fun, isn't it? A treasure hunt for the audience.
Totally.
And what's remarkable is how he often draws from obscure or cult films, But the references are so integrated, they take on new meanings in his context.
Like the glowing briefcase in Pulp Fiction.
Right. Whose content spawned endless theories. It's apparently a nod, maybe subconscious at first, to the glowing suitcase in Robert Aldrich's 1955 noir Kiss Me Deadly.
I heard he initially said the glow was accidental.
He did, but then admitted Kiss Me Deadly directly inspired Butch's character and journey. So the film was definitely on his mind. Shows how influences seep in.
Transforming the familiar into something enigmatic.
Yeah. Or take the notorious GIMP scene in Pulp Fiction.
Oh boy.
That's not just random shock value, it's a direct, almost beat-for-beat homage to John Borman's 1972 thriller Deliverance.
Right down to the squeal like a pig line. Disturbing but memorable.
And Butch avenging Marcellus with a katana. Not just cool, it's a specific Takakura Ken style reference to the Japanese actor Ken Takakura, known for wielding swords.
It's like he's inviting the film buffs into his personal library, showing you the pages he's torn out and reimagined.
Another great Pulp Fiction example, Jules's Path of the Righteous Man monologue.
Ezekiel 25.17, or not quite.
Not quite. It's directly inspired by a line from the Sonny Chiba martial arts movie The Bodyguard. He absorbed it, then elevated it.
And speaking of Sonny Chiba, the actor himself playing Hattori Hanzo in Kill Bill.
After famously playing the historical samurai Hattori Hanzo in the Japanese series Shadow Warriors.
That specific casting, that recursive reference, it's a perfect meta example of Tarantino's excellent sense of intertext.
He's not just referencing, he's bringing the source material into the new narrative. It shows deep reverence, but also this incredibly playful, audacious approach.
Remixing, transforming, not just copying. And all these stylistic choices, these references, they invariably lead us to a central pervasive theme: revenge.
Revenge. It's almost a character itself in his cinematic universe.
And when we talk about revenge, it's truly timeless, isn't it? A profoundly universal human theme.
Absolutely. Steeped in deep ethical and psychological implications across cultures, across centuries. As the philosopher Peter French notes, the extremely early appearance of vengeance as a moral theme suggests even the most primitive societies had a sense of injustice.
It's fundamental. A deeply ingrained response to being wrong.
And it goes way back. Foundational principles like lex talionis, the ancient life for life, eye for eye idea.
In Greek philosophy, the Bible.
Right. And it's crucial to understand, originally this wasn't about encouraging cruelty. It was actually meant to prevent excessive, disproportionate cruelty.
To ensure the punishment fit the crime. Keep cycles from escalating.
Exactly. An attempt at primitive, proportional justice, a critical distinction often missed.
And as legal systems became more centralized, the concept of punishment shifted.
It did. Moved from the private sphere, where personal vengeance was the norm, to public institutions, courts. French differentiates between personal, warm revenge,
Desired by the injured party, driven by emotion,
and impersonal, cold retribution, desired by anyone as a more distant formal justice. He famously said, "Vengeance is warm, retribution is cold, poetic justice is frigid," highlights the emotional temperature.
so personal revenge became increasingly frowned upon. Wild justice.
Untamed, outside civilized law. But despite that societal disapproval, there's a deep, almost primal psychological aspect that persists.
Revenge is restoring one's integrity, reasserting dignity.
Showing the world and yourself that payback is still possible when a profound injustice occurs. Regaining control, balance.
And for that satisfaction, communication and proximity matter.
Often crucial. The offender needs to convey the "this is payback" message to their target. Not just the act itself, but to truly savor the sweetness of revenge. Achieve closure.
Otherwise, the satisfaction isn't the same.
Right. It can lead to this all-consuming obsession, a singular focus on the target until that direct, acknowledged closure is achieved.
And this concept plays out so differently across cultures.
Yeah.
Let's start with the Japanese samurai tradition, especially as we see it in Kill Bill Volume 1.
Okay. In Japanese, specifically samurai culture, revenge isn't just possible, it's deeply embedded, often expected when honor is insulted.
Linked to a shame culture. Avoiding shame, upholding honor.
Paramount virtues. Story, an academic, distinguishes face, avoiding public shame from honor, a samurai's moral cargo, their intrinsic worth. If honor was insulted, there was an urgent, almost sacred obligation to restore it through meticulously planned revenge.
And Beatrix Kiddo, though modern, not literal samurai, embodies so many of those traits.
Definitely. She shows principled autonomy, A straightforward mind, clear moral code within her world, not speaking falsehoods, unshakable focus.
And incredibly disciplined, that wiggle your big toe scene.
Grueling, not just physical recovery, it's profound mental fortitude.
She also has that indifference to death, essential for samurai warriors.
As Usugi Kenshin wrote, go to the battlefield firmly confident of victory. Engage in combat, fully determined to die, and you will be alive. Beatrix carries that mindset. Her pursuit overrides fear for her own life.
And you see it in her combat. That Munin, no mind, or Mushin, no thought.
Right. During the House of Blue Leaves fight, she battles an army with almost supernatural calm and efficiency. That automatic reflex, transcending ordinary consciousness, acting on instinct and training, hallmark of the samurai tradition, it's Zen connection.
A flow state of ultimate control.
And the symbolism of the katana in Kill Bill is huge.
More than just a weapon.
Believed to possess its own spirit, a soul imbued with the maker's character, like the myth of Murasama's blades bringing conflict versus Masamune's bringing peace.
So it makes sense she seeks out Hattori Hanzo, the legendary sword maker. The quality, the spiritual essence of the blade is crucial.
Right. And Tarantino's excellent sense of inner text shines here, casting Sonny Chiba, who played the historical Hanzo, as the sword maker.
So when Beatrix tells Hanzo she needs Japanese steel, reminds him of his large obligation to counteract Bill's training. It's a deep nod to samurai ethics. Debts of honor must be repaid.
And testing the sword on Sophie Fatale's arm, cruel, humiliating, also reflects historical practices of testing katana on bodies, adds unsettling realism to the stylized violence.
And in a deeper sense, her killings, especially using the 5-point palm exploding heart technique, can be seen as acts of purification.
Connects to the calmness in Shinto, Japan's indigenous religion, where death isn't necessarily negative, but a transition. Her tears after Bill's peaceful death humanize her, connecting to that Shinto calmness, a moment of release, not just vengeance.
Now, if we shift from the ritualized East to the rugged, individualistic American Western tradition, Kill Bill Volume 2, Django Unchained. A different take on revenge.
Yeah, Kill Bill Volume 2 literally moves to the dirty and disorderly West, reflecting a shift. The Western genre itself is often a self-conscious morality play about revenge and individual justice.
In those isolated Old West communities with absent or corrupt law.
Private revenge was somewhat accepted when it appeared that the official authorities were failing. Vigilante justice often took precedence, the ultimate landscape for a lone avenger.
And that theme of the right to wealth and freedom, living life as you choose, resonates with Beatrix's struggle.
Definitely. Her choice to leave Bill, embrace motherhood, seeking the right to freedom, and to live one's life as one chooses it. The massacre becomes her justification, her impetus for that roaring rampage of revenge.
Transforming her from a worker bee to a fierce, independent vigilante.
And in that context, violent conflict becomes both a fact of social history and a figure of social transformation. Her transformation, driven by self-preservation, aligns perfectly with the Western vigilante ethos, taking sovereignty into her own hands.
And then there's Bud in Volume 2, Bill's brother.
A poignant, almost pathetic example of faded cowboy glory. Themes of squandered wealth, greed.
His belief that that woman deserves her revenge,
Yeah.
and we deserve to die. It reflects that raw Western law where, in a lawless landscape, everyone has a right to their revenge.
Brutal but honest assessment, acknowledging inevitability. His pawning his own Hanzo sword for $250 perfectly captures his fall from grace, loss of honor.
So looking at the broader cycle of violence across these narratives,
It becomes clear that revenge is, by its very definition, imitative violence, where each blow is modeled on the prior one.
that tit-for-tat economy leads to an endless cycle of hurt and payback, an ethical dilemma for the avenger.
They often have to stoop to the level of the offender, become what they despise, to get vengeance.
And here we see a stark contrast. Think about Hamlet's struggle.
His excruciating internal struggle, profound hesitancy, he grapples with doubts as the ghost truthful, fears divine retribution, deeply affected by his mother's betrayal.
He's on the cusp of that shift from primitive justice to formal law. His drive for wild justice is fraught with moral complications.
And in Hamlet, the cycle tragically escalates. Multiple characters seeking revenge, often misguidedly, leading to this cascade of deaths where the ones involved are not sure about their respective roles.
Confusion, unresolved grievances.
But
Beatrix Kiddo.
motivations, crystal clear. Virtually no doubts. Vengeance driven by a singular, unambiguous purpose.
But in Tarantino's films, Kill Bill especially, these cycles are often left open-ended.
Deliberately. Characters like Sophie Fatale, Vernita Green's daughter Nikki, still alive, hinting at potential future revenge.
Creates temporary relief and peace for Beatrix, not definitive resolution. The cycle contained, maybe, but not concluded. Violence begets violence. True closure, perhaps an illusion.
Which brings us into an even deeper look at literary and historical echoes, specifically Shakespeare.
The Shakespeare-Tarantino comparison, not just casual, right? Critics draw the parallel. Tarantino himself has alluded to it.
And holds fascinating water when you look at their shared thematic and structural approaches to revenge.
Here's where it gets really interesting. In Hamlet, the protagonist struggles with revenge as a burden, a task imposed on him by his father.
Versus Beatrix's drive as a personal necessity to get her life back. Hamlet doubts the ghost, sees himself as a conflicted scourge and minister. Beatrix is fueled by internal, unshakable rage. Her motivation is self-generated.
And the theme of betrayal by parental figures, central to both.
King Hamlet's ghost demanding revenge creates Hamlet's moral dilemmas. Gertrude's swift marriage, blemished virtue, shatters his values.
With Beatrix, it's even more complex. Bill is lover, mentor, father of her child. Introducing him as her dad underscores that role, makes his betrayal even more devastating.
And both protagonists, in their ways, struggle to overthrow the male hierarchy.
Hamlet tries to escape his father's archaic laws of revenge, that old blood-for-blood value.
Beatrix, driven by fierce mother instinct, needs to overthrow the hierarchy. Bill established one she accepted before but now finds suffocating. Her revenge is rebellion against a patriarchal order.
But Hamlet's revenge remains problematic, doesn't it? Based on hearsay and speculation.
Never gets definitive proof, and fails to clearly communicate his reasons to Claudius. Results in that chaotic cascade of deaths, roles unclear.
Whereas Beatrix's motivations are crystal clear. Every target knows why.
A huge difference. Now, shifting to Titus Andronicus.
Another Shakespearean revenge play, known for staggering violence.
A wide variety of acts of torture, mutilation, and murder. Body count rivals modern horror, pushes theatrical violence boundaries, much like Tarantino cinematically.
Both Titus and Kill Bill use extreme, often surreal, graphic violence for a specific effect.
Exactly, aiming for the release of tension and the creation of psychological distance. So over the top, it can become darkly comical, operatic. Allows the audience to step back, process it intellectually or aesthetically, not just be disgusted.
Think about the severed heads. In Tamer's Titus film, the sons' heads in glass barrels presented like a macabre freak show. Absurd theatrical horror.
Compare that to Bostonaka's beheading in Kill Bill. Head flies onto a plate, cartoonish thud, bosses scream like little girls, fountain of blood.
Immediate, absurd, intentionally distances you. A moment of extreme, almost comedic release.
Similarly with mutilated limbs, Lavinia's silent, dignified suffering in Titus evokes pity.
But Sophie Fagel screams and squeals like a pig after Beatrix severs her arm. Intentionally too real, visceral.
That raw reaction, plus the sheer excess of blood, paradoxically prompts distance, makes the grotesque spectacle more bearable. The excess creates surrealism.
And the concept of excessive retaliation. In Titus, revenge goes beyond equal retaliation to grotesque excess.
Titus outdoing Tamora in macabre wit by baking her sons into a pie and serving it to her, provides twisted catharsis as, in the play's logic, justice is served.
Beatrix mirrors this outdoing of Bill. He tried one gunshot.
She delivers the legendary 5-point palm-exploding heart technique, a skill Pei Mei taught her, but crucially, not Bill, demonstrating her ultimate superiority.
Her tears after Bill's relatively peaceful death humanize her, contrasting with her superhero persona.
A moment of triumphant victory and profound, almost mournful release.
Moving back even further, ancient Greek tragedy. Foundational echoes, Euripides' Medea.
A powerful play dealing with extreme reactions to betrayal. Terrifying lengths a scorned woman will go.
Striking parallels between Medea and Beatrix, both outsiders.
Medea, sorceress in Corinth. Beatrix, assassin, escaping her past. Both powerful and strong women recovering from betrayal with ruthless, meticulously planned revenge. Both have violent pasts, enhancing their capacity for vengeance.
And Tarantino uses ancient theatrical conventions, consciously or not.
Seems like it. Elaborate costumes that do not resemble ordinary dress. Beatrix's yellow suit, Elle Driver's nurse outfit.
Public setting for climactic confrontations, House of Blue Leaves, Japanese restaurant, Texan desert, almost like stages.
And stylized gestures. The sword fight is dance. Bill's elegant tap-dancing death, crucial in Greek theater. Heightened drama, convey emotion, make extreme actions more artistic, palatable. the theatricalization of violence.
You can also see classical concepts like the scene of decision and scene of intrigue.
Medea's resolve, moving from lamenting her fate to revealing her murderous plans, mirrored in Beatrix's wiggle your big toe scene, shows enormous dedication, willpower.
Her fight with the Crazy 88 is then her cunning and power on full display.
There are apparent reversed roles, Medea left by Jason. Beatrix leaves Bill. Medea harms children. Bill takes child. But despite reversals,
Beatrix's pain, like Medea's, fuels her resolve.
her final decision to kill Bill, though painful, is presented as the only way to achieve freedom, embrace motherhood. Just as killing the children was the only option for Medea, murdering Bill was Beatrix's only path to self-liberation.
Women scorned, using terrifying skills to strike back mercilessly.
Okay, our journey wouldn't be complete without a truly deep dive into the Western genre, arguably the most pervasive, defining influence on Tarantino.
The American West, the frontier myth, profoundly impacted American history, character, individualism, justice, nation-building.
That powerful myth created collective interest, birthing Western literature. It evolved significantly. Started with Cooper's leather-stocking tales, heroic individualism, wilderness, settler native conflict.
Then dime novels, cheap, sensationalist stories, outlaw heroes, critiques of capitalism.
Then Owen Wister's The Virginian in 1902. Considered the first true Western novel, consolidated genre stereotypes.
The brave cowboy, villain, damsel, pursuit of justice solidified the myth.
And cinema quickly adopted these themes, always a close relationship between film and Western literature. Early films like The Great Train Robbery captured the essence.
Golden Age with John Ford, but then the spaghetti western.
That's where it gets really interesting, very Tarantino-esque. Directors like Sergio Leone,
Dollars Trilogy.
Sergio Corbucci,
Django.
and Sergio Salima, the three Sergios. They transformed the genre in the 60s, presented an arid landscape with desert cities, unfortunate people, and violence everywhere.
Less heroism, more survival in a bleak world, reflecting the grim global context WWII, aftermath, Cold War Vietnam.
Key characteristics: extreme close-ups for tension, long dialogues abruptly interrupted by shocking action, recurring revenge bounty hunter themes.
And a changed perspective on Native Americans, often wise allies.
Right. And of course, absolutely essential, Ennio Morricone's iconic operatic soundtracks elevated the films artistically.
And the anti-hero replaced the noble cowboy, Clint Eastwood's Man with No Name.
A tough, cynical cowboy, working for money but sometimes helps those in need, operating outside conventional morality.
Which brings us right to Tarantino's own explicit westerns, blending tradition and revisionism. Take Django Unchained.
On one hand, it's modern Western, portrays majestic beauty of the American West, rugged hero, Django seeking vengeance, redemption, riding off into the sunset. Hits traditional beats.
But connecting this to the bigger picture, he's not just referencing westerns. He's synthesizing that entire history.
Exactly. Django Unchained powerfully carries strong spaghetti Western influence. Revisionist vision, tribute to Corbucci's Django with Franco Nero's cameo.
Features excessive use of blood and generalized violence. Tense dialogues, close-ups, Morricone-evoking music.
And what's fascinating, and much discussed academically, is how Django Unchained challenges conventional slave narratives.
Django shows heroic individualism, typical of male-authored slave narratives. But the film questions contemporary moralizing frameworks around slavery.
The controversial character of Stephen, Samuel L. Jackson, the unheroic slave, literate administrator, de facto head of Candyland, offers an alternative site of productive agency within the horrific system.
Prompted serious scholarly reflection on master-slave collusion, nuanced power dynamics, raises questions about ethical accounts of co-option.
Historian Jelani Cobb viewed Stephen's portrayal as potentially disrespectful to the history of slavery, making light of the oppression.
But defenders, citing Hortense Spillers, argue slavery functions as a discursive system, reshaped through narrative. So questions of strict historical appropriateness become querulous at best.
Suggesting Tarantino's irreverent attempt to disturb our collective memory through stylized art might actually help preserve visceral instincts about that history, rather than diminish it, keeps the conversation alive, even if uncomfortable.
And he made deliberate choices to avoid gratuitously traumatizing the audience, too. Excising graphic flashback scenes.
Right. Removed planned scenes of Django's confinement, slave auctions, Broomhilda's repeated rape things abolitionist writers addressed on paper. Decision partly enabled the cathartic ending, showing sensitivity to how audiences process trauma, implying rather than showing the most heinous violence.
Then The Hateful Eight takes spaghetti Western influence even further.
More influenced by the spaghetti Western than by the traditional Western. Characters far from honorable, most driven by money, greed, or personal interests, strips away romanticized notions.
The setting, blizzard-stricken Wyoming, reflects a chaotic place to live, filled with dangerous criminals and greedy bounty hunters. Bleak, unforgiving.
Like Django, Hateful Eight uses the post-Civil War context for political and social criticism about race then and now, and features an iconic Oscar-winning Morricone score, cementing its spaghetti Western bona fides.
What's truly remarkable, though, is how the Western influence extends beyond his direct Westerns, permeates his whole body of work.
Take Kill Bill. Beatrix Kiddo connects directly to Eastwood's Man with No Name, true name unknown, mysterious anti-hero seeking revenge. Strong moral code but acts outside conventional law. Classic spaghetti Western protagonist.
And you see it in recurring stylistic elements across his filmography.
Revenge's core engine, extreme close-ups, excessive violence, hitmen like bounty hunters, Morricone-esque music, even in non-Westerns like Inglourious Bastards, Kill Bill, it's fundamental to his artistic vocabulary.
So what does this all mean? We've taken this journey through Tarantino's vast, intricate, creative landscape, uncovered a fascinating blend of profound historical influences, audacious genre subversions, distinct stylistic choices.
From ancient samurai ethics to rugged American West individualism, Shakespearean moral complexities to raw Greek myth, Tarantino masterfully distills, remixes, recontextualizes these timeless traditions
Into something fresh, exhilarating, undeniably his own.
You can see now how his films offer far more than just entertainment. They're a genuine deep dive into the fabric of storytelling itself, challenging us to reconsider morality, heroics, the enduring cyclical nature of revenge.
He doesn't just make movies, he remixes culture, creates this dynamic dialogue across centuries of art, literature, narrative.
It's a testament to how profound, lasting art can be born from skillful, knowledgeable, passionate reimagination of what came before.
A testament to how creative genius draws from the entire well of human storytelling, transforming it, reminding us of the timeless power of narrative, which raises an important question for you, our listener. If Tarantino's genius lies in weaving together so many disparate yet timeless threads, what other historical or cultural genres do you think might be ripe for a similar deep dive, waiting to be reimagined in surprising new ways?
Something to ponder.
Definitely something for you to ponder until next time.